Hello, everyone. Another Friday evening when it's a bit lighter. I have just seen the sunset, which is really lovely. Um, I remember our dark nights. So I'm really excited that Susannah Constantine is going to join us. And we're going to talk about Susannah. She's there. Good, good. There she is. Go live with Susannah. Hang on. There we are. Send request. Hi, Susannah. We're going to talk about.
Oh,
Hello.
Hugh.
You.
Hi.
Hi.
How
You're
are
so
you?
technically unchallenged.
Thick. I am so thick. I
No.
just had to get Cece to say, what the fuck do I do? Which one do I press? Am I on the home page? Whatever, if there is such thing as a home page on Instagram. La 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 la. Anyway, I'm here. It's a miracle. It's a miracle.
It's lovely, lovely to see you.
And
Um,
you, my darling, with your little pixie haircut that you cut yourself, your fringe.
I did, yeah.
I love it.
Okay, thanks. With my nail scissors, I couldn't find these. Anyway, well, let's not talk about that. So I wanted to know how it's been since you've been so brave and talked so publicly about having an addiction and what that's like, and then maybe talk about what I understand about trauma and how addiction is really misrepresented.
Okay, so since I went public with
And
my
give us the reason for going public.
Okay, so the reason I went public with my alcoholism, 'cause my name is Susannah and I'm an alcoholic,
Okay.
was because was reading all the statistics of women in particular that had risen during lockdown. Um, and I felt that
Doubled, hasn't it?
all it's yeah, it's more than double, I think it has. And I just felt that, especially around women, there's so much shame about owning up and saying, I have a problem with alcohol. And I just felt that if I could give something back, I've kind of felt slightly like I haven't done enough during lockdown in a way. I've tried to volunteer, etc. And I thought, okay, this is the one way I can really help people who are in a similar situation as to where I was, and turning to the bottle and using it to self-medicate or to relax or whatever it is. And by saying that I was an alcoholic, it would hopefully give women permission to say the same thing about themselves, if indeed they were worried.
So it was a kind of act of love for the community in a way, and to maybe to make change what is often a shaming and kind of thought of as a kind of weak-willed or terrible habit, and making it into something that you can help others so that they can face it themselves.
Yes, exactly that. And it is, I wanted to try and explain that as an alcoholic or any form of addict, you're not a bad person that needs to become good. You are an ill person who needs to get better. And
Who need to
alcohol
help love with their recovery.
and needs, yeah, exactly. And I think for women in particular, we are so bad at asking for help. And we read, there are so many other female icons or women who say, I've got it all, I can do it all, I've got the children, I've got a career, I've got the house, I've got this. You can have it all. And I'm sorry, that's bollocks.
It is
You
bollocks.
can't. It's
No.
absolute bollocks. And we put so much stress on ourselves. And it's very difficult for us to ask for help. And so in going public, I hope, well, I know that it's encouraged women to turn to, a professional or to someone else in recovery and ask for help.
Fantastic. And
Mm.
what's the response been? Do you get masses of messages?
But yeah, the response was overwhelming,
Was it
and
amazing?
it was just kind of like the relief it seems to have given women and men, when men for themselves and men worried about their partners, their female partners, permission to say, I've got a problem. And I think that, that was a big relief. And And
Permission is the word, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. It's permission. Mm.
Um, because what I've been, so I did a course last weekend. So of course this is sort of hot off the press for me, which is why I'm particularly interested on the link between addiction and trauma. And what they talked about is you shouldn't really ask the person what's your addiction, because all of us, I think, like everyone has mental health, and you go in your phases of your life of where you have kind of robust mental health, where you feel very resilient, to the far end where you feel very vulnerable in your mental health and you have poor mental health. And I think all of us have addictive qualities, and we use food or busyness or alcohol or habits to help regulate our systems. And my kind of understanding of it is that we need them, but the level of addiction is when it causes harm, when the
Mm-hmm.
habit that we've developed that is initially there and feels like it's helping us, like it's sort of smoothing out the wrinkles, if you like, is when it gets to a point that although there's still masses of adverse consequences, we keep using or doing the addiction.
Mm.
And the addictions can be drug and alcohol, like you've talked about, which I think has a particular type of shame. But there
Mm-hmm.
can be shopping addiction, gambling addiction, smartphone addiction.
Well, there can be, and also there can be exercise addiction. There are people who are, and you assume that, okay, well, I'm exercising 7 days a week. Aren't I amazing? That in itself is an addiction. So that's what I've come to learn is that, and as we know, anything done to an extreme is not healthy.
And in the sort of pyramid of our relationship with our particular addiction, there's sort of green at the bottom where you don't take anything at all. So because I'm a member of a family that is highly addictive, I don't drink at all. I haven't had a drink
Mm,
for about 32 years, 33
mm,
years. Um, or you can have sort of no problem drinking, then you can have problem drinking, and then you can have really kind of disastrous when it goes to the red bit where it kind of wrecks your life. And I imagine you are sort of high functioning
mm.
drinking.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I was, high functioning, and
How did you know it was a problem?
because once I started, I couldn't stop. So I
Didn't have
just take
breaks.
that first drink, and I was drinking, in a very responsible way, until about 11 years ago, and then it had power over me rather than the other way around, and I would wake up feeling such shame
Oh,
and
so horrible that feeling.
anxiety and fear and guilt. Guilt. What have I done? And I would never. It was very rare that I would drink to the point of blackout. So I was very controlled, so that I can continue to sustain the lie of being
In
perfectly
control of it.
normal, in control of everything, and that and that's a very female thing, I think, as well. Everything's fine. The children are all healthy and well. I've got food on the table, driving them to school, and inside you are dying. You are dying, and it's such a lonely place to be because you are living a lie.
And that when you said you were dying inside, I think that is one of the kind of core aspects of addiction that isn't recognized.
Mm,
This sort of spiritual and total bereft emptiness that people feel at core, the sort of self-disgust that they have to drink more to block the self-loathing, but the absolute emptiness. And then that sets up that incredible sort of vicious circle, doesn't
mm,
it? Because the worse you feel about yourself, the more you have to drink, the more you have to anesthetize, the more shame you wake up with, and then the kind of cycle goes on. But one of the things I didn't really realize is that there's a physiological process, which I think I did sort of know, but it's called the addiction cycle opponent process. So
mm,
when you first say take your first hit of cocaine or your first drink,
mm,
the feeling is wonderful. And I think to some extent, all of us seek that feeling again, the feeling state of calm, feeling loved, feeling
mm,
connected, which blocks that feeling of total kind of emptiness. But as human beings, we seek homeostasis, we seek regulation. So when we've had that one hit of say, the cocaine, process B comes along and flattens it out. And that we don't kind of realize that you have these two opposing processes. One part of your body is always seeking to level you out. So that's why, and you know with sleeping pills and everything, that the more you take something, the more you have to take to have the same effect. But I didn't sort of fully realize there were these two pulls in you, and that is so like chasing the dragon, chasing that feeling is where kind of the emptiness, the whole of that emptiness lies.
I mean, addiction is just so, it's so cunning and
That's a good word.
duplicitous. It's I almost think of my addiction to alcohol as a kind of devil on my shoulder, and it's always subconsciously, but it will always be trying to pull me back. It's and that's why for me, staying sober, it's very important for me to go to meetings and to stay in touch with other alcoholics, because you can think you're fine and you're we've all heard so many stories of people who have been sober for decades, and they think, oh well, I'll be fine, I'll just have a drink, and bam, you're not having to start all over again. You're straight back where you were when you stopped. And then the downhill pattern is even more swift.
As this GD67 says, it creeps up on you. Can I just give you some of the comments? I used to love your shows with Trini, Susannah. That's Alexandra Musgrave. I love your honesty. You're really brave. Someone loves my earrings. My best friend Rachel gave them to me.
I love them too, yeah.
Yes.
They're gorgeous.
Downward spiral. Once it starts, it's hard to stop again. So it sounds like lots of people have this experience, and there is a moment that you kind of hope, it's called kind of rock bottom, but in therapy there's this moment, why now? What's got you here now? And with you, what was the moment that you knew you couldn't fool yourself anymore, that you were kind of playing a game and harming yourself in the game, that you were kind of the kidding of yourself, the denial is worse?
Interestingly, it wasn't for myself that I sought help. It was for what I was doing to my family. And I remember, my kind of rock bottom wasn't nearly as low as a lot of people, or where I 100% would have got to. But I blacked out, fell over, and broke 2 transverse processes in my lower back. And I remember the shame of doing that. And I have it, it was just, and then I called a friend of mine in America for help. And he kind of put me in touch with someone in this country who I met up with. But then the next day, I just sat my family around the table. And I just said, okay, I want you all to tell me what you think of my drinking. I've been lying to you. So I came out and I just said, I've been lying to you. I'm drinking far more than any of you realize. I'm drinking daily.
You
I can't stop.
Secretly.
Oh, absolutely. And that's exhausting. And the imagination you have to kind of wise up to, where am I going to hide the bottles where no one's going to find them? And, I drank.
Totally preoccupied.
Probably. Yeah, it preoccupies you, but also I drank maybe what a lot of people drink anyway, and they're not alcoholics. It's how it affected me and how it affected my my self-esteem. And but yeah, so that's why I started, is when I realized, especially my youngest daughter Cece, who was far more present. She was at home more, and what it was doing to her, and I just thought, I can't do this to my children anymore.
And they didn't know what was going on.
Well, they knew exactly what was going on. Especially Cece. She was the watcher. She was the watcher, and she would, she'd catch me, and I go, or she'd say, "You've been drinking." I go, "No, I haven't."
Yeah.
And lie, barefaced lie, and so all the trust was gone, and the only way you can make amends for that is by staying sober.
Yeah. And that is a big amends, right?
Mm.
So someone has asked how, if you're living with someone who's drinking too heavily in the evening, how can you, what's the best way of approaching it? Someone's saying have a dialogue with them or tell them how it's affecting you. What do you think your partner could have, your husband could have, was he saying stuff and you weren't listening? What?
No, and you know, he knew that he had said things occasionally, but there was no way I was going to listen until to anyone until I was ready to do it myself. And he had the wisdom and forethought to understand that it had to be down to me. And he didn't enable my drinking in any way, shape, or form, but he gave me enough rope to pull myself up and wake up.
Amazing.
So, which was pretty amazing of him. And I, you know, again, when I think of what I put him through and how incredible he was,
Oh.
and I put myself in his shoes and I think, my goodness, how would I be if he was in my position? And I would be terrified. I would be absolutely terrified if he was, you know, drinking like I was.
And so you know, because sometimes people kind of confront you, that you have a group of people who
Yeah.
challenge you and tell you, when you do this, when you did this, I experienced this, and so that there's a kind of group of you who challenge. That wouldn't have worked for you. You would have just lied.
Well, it might have done if I had enough people, but the thing is, you know, when I became sober and I would go to a part eventually. I didn't go anywhere for a long time. You know, I kept myself safe. And then I started going out and someone would offer me a drink and I just go, no, you know, I don't drink, I'm an alcoholic. And they'd go, no, really? Majority of people were so surprised that I had this addiction because I'd hidden it so well and I was so in control. But it was the people close to me who saw me every day who knew, and those were the ones I cared most about.
Yeah, and that you were harming.
Yeah.
So someone here is saying, I lost my dad to alcoholism in 2019, grief sofa. Addiction is horrible. And Moon Hair is saying, I was addicted to alcohol for 33 years. I don't identify as an alcoholic. Anyone can get addicted if they do it heavily and consistently. I'm 5 years AF. I'm no longer an addict. I think however you stay sober and whatever you believe is right for you, don't you? I mean, I think the thing that I think is important always to remember is that one's vulnerable, that you don't have control over it. So that in the way of AA, I am powerless, that I surrender. So the other aspect of it, and I don't know if this is true of you, what the underlying cause of your emptiness was. If somebody said to you, do you know what that is? Because what the stats are, that 43 to 75% of people with PTSD, and that can be trauma from a sudden event, or it can be a childhood trauma that's never been processed, are substance addicts. That 50 to 60% of addicts there are genetic factors, which is why I don't drink. And that's a genetic predisposition as well as behavioral, what you observe as you grow up. So the big favor you've done your children is that they're not going to learn, you're not modeling to them the way I deal with difficult feelings is to drink. How I deal with difficult feelings is swimming in the freezing cold.
Yes.
And working and loving and being with friends and being myself and feeling my feelings, expressing my feelings, feeling low, feeling normal. And the sort of, there's a personal history. But I mean, you may not want to talk now, but do you know what led to that emptiness and low self-esteem and self-loathing?
I didn't have any of those things, not that I'm aware of. And
Well, it's not.
yeah, I mean, I drank to have fun. You know, I drank. Everything was more fun when I had drink inside me. And that could be, you know, I'd be tired and I'd be at home and I'd be cooking dinner for everyone. And if I had a glass of wine, everything was so much more fun. I could go to the most boring dinner, the most boring event. I didn't care because I could drink. So it was an excuse to drink, and I'd always have fun because I was drinking. So I still am to find out what the root cause of my alcoholism is. I mean, my grandmother was an alcoholic, so I'm assuming it's, a genetic
There's a genetic
predisposition.
factor. Yeah.
But so I really, I don't know, and I don't know if I want to know, but I do know that I drank because I bloody well enjoyed it.
So
And
now when
until
you
I
go
didn't,
into,
yeah.
so there's that tipping point. So
Mm,
in that Venn diagram of not abstinence, not problem drinking, then sort of heavy drinking, and then properly problem drinking. And that's the thing with alcohol, isn't it? Is that it, as you said, it's insidious. You kind of, that moment of until you didn't, you thought you were in charge, but you weren't in charge, because at some
mm.
point it started running you instead of you running it.
Yeah, that's
And it was
absolutely
in
right.
charge.
Totally, totally. It's amazing the excuses you can, that I would make
Denial.
up to drink. And, it's like, oh, well, and it would always be tomorrow I won't, tomorrow I won't, tomorrow I won't, and tomorrow I always did, and the day after, and the day
And then
after,
the
and the day
shame.
after. And
Ugh.
then the shame, and like you say, it's the vicious circle. It's on a hamster wheel that part of me didn't want to get off. But then it got to the
Because
point where I
that
did.
first feeling, your first drink, is amazing.
Exactly.
If you can stick with that one. So one of the things is kind of assured arousal feeling, that you're assured when you have a drink that you're going to get a particular feeling.
Mm,
But the kind of underbelly of that is that it takes more to get that feeling, because it takes more and more, but also it doesn't last so long. And then the
mm,
kickback of it, the price you pay for it, overwhelms those moments of phew.
so true.
So
Yeah.
someone's here saying, I often question my drinking. I can drink up to a bottle of wine a night. I don't get drunk. It affects no one, but see it as a habit that I need every day. Don't know if I'd call myself an alcoholic. What do you think?
I mean, I can't tell anyone else, or, all I can say is how it is for me. And I think, I didn't drink. I maybe drank, the most I would drink would be a bottle and a half, maybe two bottles, and that would
Quite
floor
bad for
me.
your
So
health, that though.
very, very, and I think that, I believe there are people who drink a bottle of wine, and the last thing I want to do is someone to say, to hear this or read what I've written, and someone will point at them and go, well, you've had like half a bottle of wine, you're an alcoholic. Because it's so subjective. It's
It's your,
how.
I mean, I think, to the person who's asking,
Yeah.
it's your relationship with the alcohol.
Mm,
So the basic definition is, if it isn't causing you harm, if although it still has bad consequences, you keep on drinking, or that you want to stop and you can't stop, then you can have either addictive tendencies and you're a kind of problematic drinker.
mm-hmm.
But if you don't have those and you feel fine in the morning, it's not affecting your life, then enjoy.
Lucky you.
Lucky you. I mean, with me, once I had one drink, I was a goner. I mean, there was
Mm,
no way I could just have one and
mm,
then not. And I went for like a year, only allowing myself, I think you're allowed 20 units as a woman a week, pub
mm.
units, which are quite small. So I tried
Tiny.
that. Yeah, tiny. So I
Mm,
tried that. uh, But it was just so exhausting, counting the days off, the days on, that it was much, much easier.
mm.
But you said it was so fun. So do you have fun going out now? Because it took me a while to learn how to dance at parties, to kind of let go, to have fun. That took me, must have taken a few years then.
I mean, to be honest, I think the only reason I enjoyed going to parties was because I was drinking. And now I don't drink. I couldn't think of anything worse than going to a party and having to get on a dance floor. So I just don't go. I'm totally
I imagine
antisocial.
you dancing on tables, Susannah.
No, I couldn't think of, I so couldn't think of anything worse. And I would rather be with really good friends,
Around the
or
kitchen
in a
table.
small group, the thought of having to dress up or, put a ball gown on or anything like that, I would rather chew off my left arm. I couldn't think of anything worse.
Anyhow, I don't think that's going to be on offer anytime
No,
soon.
no, exactly. Mm.
Um, so Lynn Foss says, I knew I had a problem when I would yell so loud and viciously at my children first thing in the mornings. Oh, I
Mm.
saw my face one day. I looked like a fire-breathing dragon. My poor bambinos.
Oh God.
But isn't it great that you realise that moment was the
Mm.
moment where your denial didn't work anymore? It kind of poked through the denial.
Absolutely. And the what I've gained from not drinking has been so immense. I've discovered life, and probably for the
Do you
first
feel
time
more
I've
alive?
yeah, and I probably more than I have done since I can remember. I
Really?
really do feel it's a sort of not even a rebirth, just a birth. I
Really?
feel like I've
Oh,
been born. Yeah, it's how it's being
amazing.
present in the moment and just and noticing things. And I think one of the benefits out of lockdown, and I'm sure a lot of people watching this will identify, is how our horizons have had to be pulled in. They've had to become closer. So I'm noticing things much closer. So I'll look at a chair or a tear in a curtain or a frog in the cellar, and I just I notice things and I get pleasure and memories from all these things. So that's another real benefit from
Because
this.
that is so moving and lovely to hear, because the birth in a way is the birth of your natural sense, where all of your senses, sight, sound, touch, smell, your heart, your being, is alive. Because the
Mm,
trouble with drinking, it anesthetizes the pain, and it also anesthetizes every other sense in your body.
mm,
So you're like a sort of narrow, blunt instrument that's sort of going around, not really taking anything in, because it's blocking most of it out with the pain. And that's a, really high price to pay. But it sounds like you have come alive and feel everything, see everything. And your children, I mean, have your children said things to you?
well, Cece has. I mean, I'm very open about it, and right from that morning when I sat them around the kitchen table and told them,
How long ago is that?
that was 7 years ago,
Oh,
and
wow.
I've been I'm very open with them, and we talk about it, and um, and I said, you might have the gene, just be aware. Just be aware, you might have, and we'll deal with that if that's, I don't want you to stop having fun, it's up to you
Exactly.
what you do, but you just might. And I can't remember what I was saying now, Julia. What was I saying?
Coming alive and
Yeah,
the children
yeah,
enjoying you and speaking to them and
yeah. They. I think for them, I've always been mum. Probably not as I didn't instill as much trust as I do now. Um,
because you can't
but
be as reliable if you're not so.
no, but for me, I'm the one who did all the damage. And now I'm the one who's getting all the benefit, and that's amazing, And yeah, it's just, and obviously not every day is great. There's some really shit days, and we all have that. But
Yeah.
it's knowing that they're going to pass, like your book, this too shall pass.
Yes.
Mm,
And also you've replaced it with AA, which is of course is social connection, which is the biggest. So all the people writing about addiction now, the thing they talk about is that it's often unrecognized trauma from childhood and life experiences. And so for that, they need to sort of deal with the trauma first, and then they can begin to deal with the habits. But
mm,
also, it's a lot to do with disconnection and loneliness, and
mm,
that social connection is the biggest antidote to addiction.
mm.
That, and of course, when you're addicted, that is your main relationship. That's your kind of principal relationship, and all the anticipation, the planning, the hiding, the
Just,
excitement that you're going to get
yeah,
your wine in the afternoon, or when
yeah,
Cece's out, you can finally have
yeah.
or whatever it is.
It's like having a love affair. It's like having, it's like you're being unfaithful, but you're being unfaithful to your whole family, not just your partner. That's what it's like. And it's, for me, it just got grubby and dirty, and I didn't want to be there anymore.
And it is pretty shit.
Mm.
But in the reverse is so, I mean, it sounds like the response in the reverse is amazingly fast. Like our bodies recover very, very quickly from the addiction. So the sort of urge for the addiction, our systems reboot very, very fast. So
So
we
that's
have
the
this,
physical side, isn't it? That's a physical side, but then
not with heroin probably. I'm not so sure heroin, but alcohol and sort of bad habits like shopping and overeating. Someone says overeating. Someone loved your autobiography. Did you write an autobiography?
No. My first novel was kind of semi-autobiography. Oh, it might be on the cards.
Someone is saying about overeating, and that is another addiction. It's the same. It doesn't really matter what the habit is. It's if you're using it to block pain, and that it's doing you more harm than good. And there isn't as much help for overeating, except there is Overeating Anonymous, isn't there?
I think so. Yes, I'm not sure. I think so. Yeah.
Let me just see what else people are saying.
But it's all that short-term gain, isn't it, for long-term pain? To eat and then really kind of savor that moment, and then you just keep going, and it's all the same. Shopping, everything. That's what's extraordinary. And I wonder if like with alcoholism or shopping addiction, it's like the physical side will go, but then it's a mental illness, and that's what you've got to deal with. And as I understand, I might be wrong, Julia, you can put me right, but it's the mental side, and the drinking or the shopping is a symptom of the mental disorder. Is that right?
As is the drinking.
Yeah.
So all of them are voiceless cries of pain. Like I feel empty, I loathe myself, I feel worthless, I feel ashamed, I loathe myself, and it's to block the pain is the basic kind of reason for it. But also it is, alcohol and smoking, all of those things, they have a hook that do get you. So they go to a part of your brain that send happy transmitters, which are very exciting. And then you keep trying to chase the dragon to get that feeling again. But the cure for it, in the best sense, which is why I think AA is a completely unlauded organization. I mean, it's free. It saves millions of people's lives throughout the world. It's so kind of simple and complex. The Serenity prayer, give me the courage to accept the things I cannot change. What is it?
The wisdom to change the things I can. No, God grant me serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, that works for anyone in
any situation. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Anything. No, it is an amazing organization, and I'm never kind of, because of the yellow card, what you see here, what you hear here, let it stay here, the anonymity side of it. I never know how much I can really talk about AA, so I've always kind of been quite careful. But it is, I walked into an AA meeting, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel alone. So I wonder if, a lot of my drinking came from loneliness.
Well, it's estrangement from yourself. So it's not loneliness in the sense that there were people in your life, your husband and your children and great friends and all of that. But really the drinking was your main habit, wasn't it? The main relationship in your life that was doing your head in. So I guess in the curative repair, I think, from AA is you become part of a club that no one would choose to be a member of. But once you're in it, the level of compassion and empathy and understanding and the way of understanding of how just talking about how you feel keeps you sober. You know,
Well, and
owning
just
what's
hearing other
difficult.
people's stories and
Yes,
the lack of judgment, and you know, you go there and you hear someone speaking, and there might be someone who you don't identify with. And what I love is it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what your background is. We all have this common bond. We are all the same. We are all alcoholics, and there is something so unifying about that. And well, you know, not something, it's
it's
everything.
healing.
Yeah.
But also,
And
it's a kind of love, isn't it? I mean, that's the feeling. I mean, I went to Al-Anon when I was very young,
mm,
um, and so I don't go now. But in hearing people's stories, I didn't even know that you could talk about feelings like that. I had no idea people could be honest about how they felt until I went to A. It was an
mm,
absolute revelation. I always thought
mm,
the only thing you can do is pretend and carry on, you know, just pretend everything's
mm,
fine. So, I mean, that's AA was definitely one of the things that got me into being a therapist. There's no question.
really.
I was blown away by how moving the honesty was, people's
Yeah.
honesty. But also, I was blown away by how that honesty connected us. You know, that authenticity of congruently being themselves, owning themselves, voicing themselves, being angry, being sad, being furious, being ashamed, and
Mm,
that all of us witnessed it without an opinion, without a judgment, without trying to fix it, and heard it, felt to me completely miraculous. I
mm,
mean, and it
mm,
is, and yet it's free, and it's, you know, it's what we all need, is to be connected and feel loved.
mm. I wish the whole world was run on the principles of
Yes,
AA. It would be a much better place. But
it
it
would.
is, it's, yeah, there's a strange power when you go in, and it's, and everyone, you know, everyone takes their own, you know, approaches it in their own way. And for me, it's a bridge to normal living. And, you know, people get really into it. Some people dip in and out, and it doesn't matter. And that's what's so wonderful. It's not like you're taking a thesis and how to become, you know, to stop drinking, and you have to tick all the boxes. No, you can,
Very forgiving.
you can, you're allowed to use it, you know, and not be judged for saying, well, I'm just going to go, you know, now because I feel terrible. It doesn't matter. It's there. This is totally unconditional. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. So
Mm,
there's two messages, and then I've got one final question because I know we must
mm.
end. So Snifter Chick says, can non-alcoholics benefit from attending AA? I'm sure you can benefit.
100%.
100%.
Go. I mean, if you just 100%, you know, my God, just go there, go and get free therapy. You know, really,
It's
it's
amazing.
amazing. And if you're feeling, I mean, I don't know if we should be saying this, but you know, if you're feeling lonely, go to an AA meeting.
Yeah.
But no, and it's extraordinary, especially if you have, you know, someone, you have a friend or a family member who you think is struggling. It's a great thing to do, and Al-Anon
But why
probably
I
is
went
the
to
place to
Al-Anon.
go.
Grace
Mm.
O'Donnell said they should teach these wisdoms in schools. I completely agree.
Absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
Miranda Dunn says it's a doctrine of grace, 12 steps. That's a lovely way of saying it.
Oh,
That's so lovely. It's a doctrine
mm,
of grace. In Schiffer Vision says, in Al-Anon, you're also encouraged within the meetings to perform services such as volunteering to be a secretary for a period of time where you can help others. That's fantastic.
mm.
So my last question is a double question. One is, if someone is listening or going to listen who is in the same sort of position as you, they're a high functioning alcoholic, or they've got an addiction, whatever it is, gambling, shopping, phone, what would you say to them?
I'd say pick up the phone. Pick up the phone to a friend or to AA or CA or whatever the A's are, anonymous is. Because
That's
once
good.
you've you know, you've outed your fear and concern with someone, you're halfway there. You know, that is the first step because you've admitted it to another person.
Feels so moving even hearing you say that. That's so
Oh,
it's so lovely.
It's simple. It's simple, isn't it? It's not. It's such a vile, complicated disease. But if you're willing to change, it's very simple.
Yeah. Because that was the other thing I was going to say is, I mean, I want to thank you for your grace. And it does feel like you have kind of reacquainted yourself with yourself in a loving way. And that feels so special.
Mm. I hope so. I still have my doubts and in self-doubts and insecurities, like everybody does. But
Everybody does. I mean, that's life.
yeah,
Life isn't about not suffering.
no.
It's always
And
been
it's,
theory.
I just don't pick up a drink now. I just have a massive bar of chocolate and so
I saw
Overeaters
your one
Anonymous,
when
here
you
I
had
come.
Five Guys hamburgers.
Oh my God, that was good. Oh, delicious.
But also you're
Delicious.
swimming. I mean, that is an addictive high, no?
That is an addictive high, and it's yeah, it is extraordinary. This is cold water swimming, and
But
or
it's
sort
so
of
healing.
otherwise known as wild swimming. It is healing because you feel, and I think with the cold water, it's so elemental that you feel you're being embraced by nature. There's
Oh,
just something about it that, that it's like being filled up with nature. And it's not cold, it's a kind of weird sensation that you just got to go
gotta
in
do
and
it.
go, I'm doing this. No questions, I'm just doing it. And
In some
yeah,
ways,
it's
it
really
feels like it renews your soul when you say that. It's
mm,
like you almost can't put words to it, that it's an
mm,
experience that is so kind of elemental and
mm.
natural that it feeds something profoundly deep and spiritual in you. Not
I think
feeds,
it's,
it
yeah,
nourishes. Yeah.
nourishes. Yeah, it is nourishing, but it's empowering. It's so empowering because you feel you've achieved something. If you were just going to get in the swimming pool in summer, but or the sea, well, not the English Sea, but let's say we're lucky enough to go abroad and you get into the warm Mediterranean. But to do that, it is an achievement.
Because it takes courage.
It takes courage, but you do it and then you come out and you can't believe how 30 seconds to 10 minutes of your day can make you feel like that, make you feel for the next 24 hours. I mean, it's, you don't have to go to the gym for an hour and sweat your butt off. Just get into cold water or a cold shower for 30 seconds to a minute, whatever you can, build up to. And it's, the benefits are really, internal benefits are so amazing. It's not external, it's all about the internal benefits.
But also the research is, all the Wim Hof stuff, but all the
Mm,
research about it's good for your immune system, it's good for longevity, it's good for your memory, it's good for people who have depression, it's good for people
mm,
with anxiety. I mean, it has masses of benefits.
mm.
Anyhow, everyone is saying thank you. Everyone is saying they love you. One
Well,
person saying that you should be a chat show host, which you certainly should. Um,
so should you, Julia, more than
not at
me.
all.
Mm.
And so lovely seeing you. And
Oh,
thank
and
you
you,
for
my
your
darling.
honesty and your humility. I mean, it's a really wonderful thing. And I just feel so touched by you.
Well, you are, I wouldn't speak quite so openly with anyone other than you. So thank you for giving me
It's
that
like it's just us
opportunity.
two, but other people are
I
seeing
know, it's
this.
amazing. It's so lovely. And I just hope that, anyone who's been watching this, it does help, And someone's saying my hair looks great. Look at all the grey there coming through.
You've got
So it's
such
not
amazing hair. I'm just
so
jealous of the
great.
thickness.
Mm. Anyway, lots and lots of
That's
love.
the
Have a
love.
great weekend.
Is everybody have a great
Yeah,
weekend.
everyone have a great weekend. Biggest
Lots of
kiss.
love. Yeah, biggest gift. Bye, darling. Bye.
Bye.